Hello, guys. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through how to complete your defining characteristics of culture assignment. So our first step is we're going to look at the text itself, and we're going to read through it, and we're going to mark up the text a little bit. So these directions aren't on your paper, but I'm going to add them here, and I want you to do them as we read. So we're going to keep using our marking the text. So as we mark, you are going to circle 2 keywords per paragraph. And you are going to underline the main idea of each paragraph. Okay? So these are going to be your marking the text directions. Circle 2 keywords for each paragraph, underline the main idea. Hopefully you're getting into the habit so that this is happening every time we do a reading. Okay, so here we go. Here is the first section. The word culture means a lot of things. According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, culture can refer to the beliefs and traits of a group. This can be racial, religious, or social group. The word also refers to the shared values, goals, and practices of an organization. Culture is also a pattern of human knowledge. This knowledge gets passed through generations. Culture is also in our languages and our food. It is in our holidays, our art, our religions, and more. Culture is what shapes our feelings and interactions with the world. It's what gives a society and each person within it an identity. All right, you're going to pause right here for just a second. Look back at those 2 paragraphs. Each paragraph, circle 2 keywords and underline your main idea. All right, here we go. Moving on to our next one. Defining characteristics. One defining characteristic of culture is that it is learned. When we are born, we have no sense of our culture. Sometimes people are adopted. Adoption can happen between people of different cultures. When someone is adopted, they take up the values and beliefs of their adopted culture. Much of culture is learned without us realizing. We naturally pick up on the cultural conditions of our community. Culture is also shared. If one person has a belief or practice, it is not culture. Culture instead represents the patterns of behavior and beliefs for many. For example, millions of people share cultural elements such as religion or language. Symbols are another defining characteristic of cultures. Language is a symbol. People within one culture often share it. Cultural symbols also include uniforms, which show connection to a group. A person may wear military stripes, for example. This shows us that they are part of the military and its culture. Okay, we're going to pause right here. Look back through those 4 paragraphs. And for each paragraph, you're going to circle 2 keywords and underline your main idea. Okay, we're going to pause right here. All right, let's keep going. So, next section, common elements. Cultures can be defined by their practices. The food we eat is a large part of our culture. Within the United States and around the world, people of different cultural groups eat different foods. They may also eat at different times of the day or use different tools to eat. These are all aspects of culture. People of different cultures may even dress differently. Some cultures may have bright, colorful garments. Others may choose dark or dull colors. Culture may define how much of the body people keep covered and whether or not they cover their hair. The use of makeup and other accessories is also influenced by culture. Art is also a part of culture. In many cultures, art is influenced by the beliefs and religion. Myths, for example, are traditional stories passed down through generations. Myths are a way to share cultural beliefs with the world. Okay, pause right here. Go back and look at each of those paragraphs, and you're going to underline your main idea for each paragraph, circle 2 keywords. Paying homage to one's culture. Holidays and celebrations are one way people reflect their culture. Independence Day is one example. It is part of the U.S. culture. Americans come together to remember their history. Other cultures similarly celebrate people or events that they value. Many holidays are often tied to religion, a central point of many cultures. Culture also often has rites of passage. Rites of passage are events that mark an important stage in someone's life. In Latin American cultures, the quinceañera celebrates a girl's 15th birthday. The celebration marks the passage from childhood to adulthood. In Jewish cultures, the bar mitzvah is celebrated at the age of 13. Similarly, it marks a young boy's entry into adulthood. These rites of passage are part of the shared culture of individuals and their families, and their communities. Cultures are living, changing things. They are constantly influenced by many parts of life. Think about a culture in which you live. How would you expect it to be? Would you not expect You would not expect it to be the same as it was 200 years ago. Culture changes to make room for new understandings of the world. They are also affected by changes in technology. All right, pause here, go back for each of those 3 paragraphs, circle 2 keywords, and underline your main idea. Okay, so now that we finished our reading, we're going to be kind of breaking it down a little bit and looking at what we actually got from that text and why it's important. So you'll see that on your page 22 is where you have your graphic organizer that you're going to fill in. For each of those, you have the different sections of the text. So if I scroll back up, you can see like that's the first section, it's the intro, and then defining characteristics, that's row 2. Common elements, row 3, each of them is sectioned off. So you're going to go back through and you're going to look at each of those sections one at a time. And you're going to decide what is something that you learned from that section. And a good rule of thumb, if you're not sure, is to look at those 2 sentences that you just underlined. Once you've figured out what you've learned, we're going to find evidence. You're going to include a quote. And then finally, you're going to say why it's important. So for our first section here, I said that I learned that culture is made up of many different things, including art and religion. This is my own words, really, really important. This first section, or this first box, is always going to be in your own words. If you want to use mine, go ahead and copy it right here. If there's something else you'd like to use, you're welcome to do that. But pause for a moment and fill in that first box. What's one thing you learned from the intro? Okay, awesome. So now our next part is we're finding evidence according to the text. Excuse me. So I'm going to go back and look at my section. And here I want to copy a sentence word for word from the text that proves that I didn't just make up that thing that I said I learned. So I believe that for this first one, I picked this sentence right here. That culture is also in our languages and food. It's our holidays, art, religions, and more. This was my one. So I'm going to take that sentence and I'm going to copy it down word for word on my chart. You want to make sure that when you do that, you are putting it in quotation marks because you just quoted the text. You used a sentence from the text to support your claim. Okay, take a minute. If you're using my row as the example, go ahead and copy down my quote. If you're using your own information, your own thing you learned, find a quote and fill that in. Okay, pause right here. All right, now we get into the next part, which is the why it's important to know it. So who cares is kind of what we're answering here. So why is that fact important for you to know? So I said that my fact that culture is made up of different things, including art and religion, I said that was important because when we study culture, like we as in 7th grade world history, when we study culture, we can look at the different parts to get to know the people of that culture. It helps give us an insight to figure out how that society works together. If you're using mine, go ahead and pause right here and copy it down. If you're doing this on your own, use the sentence starter and explain why it's important. Okay, we'll pause for a sec. All right, here we go. So moving on to the second section. You now have an example of what to do. You're going to follow that process. So for row number 2, I'm going to go up to my defining characteristics section. So it says defining characteristics right here. I'm going to look back at those 4 paragraphs, especially the main idea sentences that I underlined. And I'm going to decide what is one fact I learned from that text. So take a minute, find your fact. Awesome. So now I'm going to go down here and I can use my, actually, I don't remember if you guys have a sentence starter there. You don't. So you can use that sentence starter though if you want to, and say, in this section I learned, and tell me something you learned in your own words. Awesome. So now we want to have evidence from the text that supports that that's something that was in there. So we're going to go back to that section. We're going to find a sentence that really proves that we learned that thing. And we're going to copy that sentence word for word because we're making that a quote. So I'm going to copy that sentence and I'm going to put it right here in the author states box. Amazing, fantastic. Okay, so then your last step for this row is you're going to write why it's important. And you can use the same sentence starter that we used for the one above. So this is important to know because, and why is it important that we know this thing that you just learned? Take a minute, finish that that sentence. Okay, so we've done 2 now. I'm going to have you go on and do it on your own. So finish rows 3 and 4, and then you're going to come back here to the video. Okay, go ahead and pause. All right, so you have your whole box filled in. The last thing you're going to need to do is to write a 10-word summary describing what culture is and why it's important. So you've got 10 lines here. You're going to figure out one really good complete sentence that really summarizes what you have in your chart right here. So think about the keywords that you used. Think about the quotes that you used, and you're going to write a summary sentence, one really good sentence telling me what culture is and why it's important. You can only use 10 words though, no going over, no going under. So it's got to be 10 exactly. Awesome. Okay, so once you've got that done, you are all finished for today, and I can't wait to hear your summaries. Okay, bye everybody.